Good morning, Michael. Tara, ladies and gentlemen. I concur, Michael, with your remarks. We are very fortunate to have Tara at the helm, and we are indeed also very fortunate to have had your own stewardship as the chairperson of Bord Bia for the last number of years, and indeed in the last critical 12 months. Greetings from the city of the tribes, from the west coast of Ireland, from the wild Atlantic way. I'm down here at Seafest, which has been described by many as the equivalent of the ploughing championships for the marine industry, and certainly a very interesting gathering here. But I would also like to thank Bord Bia for their sterling work in the context of Brexit over the last 12 months, and particularly pleased to be able to join you in the context of the launch of the Brexit Barometer. We are 1 year on from the UK's decision to leave the European Union. It was a decision commentators did not expect, and one that certainly Ireland did not want. We can remind ourselves that 48% of United Kingdom citizens and a majority in Scotland and Northern Ireland voted to remain in the European Union. That is irrelevant, however, because we find ourselves in a position where there is no option but to respect the democratic will of the UK citizens, however marginal the vote to leave was. Since that upheaval, it has been a year of significant political change in the European Union. There are new prime ministers in France, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, and in Ireland, and we still have parliamentary elections to come in 2017 in Germany, Austria, the Czech Republic, and Slovenia. And in the UK, an election has been held and almost lost, depending on your perspective. There have been unexpected election results in other parts of the world as well, but that discussion might best be left for another day. Concerns about the stability of the European Union have been somewhat settled by the outcome of elections in the Netherlands and more recently in France. And so we find ourselves now at the start of a negotiation which is unprecedented because it reverses a trend of inexorably closer engagement in Europe that started 60 years ago when the Second World War finished and was fresh in people's memories, and the need to build a closer community of nations in Europe was crystal clear. We in Ireland are still clear about the benefits of the European Union, and so we approach this negotiation with a great deal of regret, but as part of a bloc of 27 member states committed to constructive engagement within a union of almost 500 million citizens and consumers, and also to constructive engagement with the United Kingdom following its departure. The negotiations have commenced, and the narrative from Michel Barnier and David Davis on day one was reasonably positive. Both negotiators have indicated that they are confident that swift progress can be made, but equally have acknowledged that meeting a deadline of the 31st of March 2019 is very challenging. There will be 5 rounds of negotiations between now and the 9th of October, with the parties meeting formally every 4 weeks or more frequently if that is necessary. While there is understandable impatience at the uncertainty surrounding the future trading relationships with the United Kingdom, these negotiations will follow a necessary sequence with the arrangements for withdrawal up front. Initial discussions will focus on the rights of citizens living in each other's territory, border arrangements between Ireland and the United Kingdom, and the amount that Britain will pay to meet existing and future European Union commitments. Despite initial reluctance, this sequencing now appears to have been accepted by the United Kingdom. From an Irish perspective, there has been a significant achievement. There's already been a significant achievement with border issues up front and centre in the exit negotiations. This is critically important because of the integrated nature of the food supply chain on the island of Ireland, and also because of the acute political sensitivity of any kind of hard border on the island. Our agri-food exports to Northern Ireland in 2016 were valued at €665 million, with imports valued from Northern Ireland at €535 million. This level of interconnection is manifested daily in cross-border travel and in trade in raw materials for processing, in live animals for slaughter or fattening, and in ordinary people going about their daily business to work and to shop and for leisure. Avoiding any disruption to this normal flow of life and business on this island is critically important for the future. Of course, the value of east-west trade in both directions is many multiples of that between north and south. The overall value of agri-food exports to the United Kingdom in 2016 was €4.8 billion, with imports valued at €3.7 billion that year. Ireland has made it clear from the outset that we want trade between Ireland and the United Kingdom to continue unimpeded without tariff or non-tariff barriers. Since this time last year, we have been engaged in a diplomatic offensive at both political and official level. We have met with counterparts in other member states and within European Union institutions to sensitise them to Ireland's particular vulnerability to a hard Brexit, but also to explain why such an outcome is not in the best interests of the European Union 27. While Ireland is unquestionably the worst affected, it is clear that a hard Brexit will impact negatively on agri-food sectors in many member states. We believe that this view has some traction. For example, a report published on the 23rd of June last by the Department of Food and Resource Economics at Copenhagen University concludes that Danish agri-food exports to the United Kingdom would diminish by 79% in a WTO tariff or hard Brexit scenario. We've seen, the headlines in the Irish Independent this morning talking about the consequences of Brexit for farm subsidies. And, whilst that is very much a preliminary assessment, it gives you some flavour of the potential consequences. While it is clear that a United Kingdom outside the European Union cannot have all of the benefits of membership, the very trenchant language which characterised some of the early and very public exchanges between the negotiating sides has softened somewhat more recently. This is positive, but of course we are just at the beginning of the negotiation that has no precedent. It will be difficult. People will adopt maximalist positions initially, so I would advise people to fasten their safety belts. This is a marathon, not a sprint. In that context, and while accepting the need to sequence the negotiations in an orderly fashion, Ireland needs the discussion to turn to the post-Brexit trading relationship as quickly as possible. The negotiating guidelines provide for the sequencing I've described, but also allow for discussion on the post-Brexit relationship when sufficient progress has been made in these areas. There is sufficient ambiguity in this language to allow for a pragmatic approach when the time is right. I hardly need to say to this audience how exposed the food and drink sector is to the United Kingdom market. In 2016, the value of exports to the UK comprised 37% of Irish food and drink exports, with 32% going to the rest of the European Union and the remaining 31% going to third countries. Nonetheless, while the half-year sterling impact alone resulted in a reduction of 8% in the value of food and drink exports to the United Kingdom, it is noteworthy that overall, the value of Irish food and drink exports in 2016 increased, and this is primarily attributable to increased exports to third countries. It's worth noting also that it's the 7th successive year of increased value in our export offerings. Ireland exports food and drink products to 180 different countries worldwide. We have a strong reputation for food safety and quality. This reputation, our natural environmental advantages, together with significant investment in environmental schemes through our Rural Development Programme and the Origin Green Programme, can provide a really solid platform for further development, both in third country markets and in more mature markets in the European Union. Last week, I travelled to the United States and Mexico with a delegation of officials, state agencies and industry representatives, including Bord Bia and Tara McCarthy, to promote Irish food and drink exports. The value of the Irish food and drink exports to the United States has almost doubled from around 520 million in 2012 to 1 billion and 22 million in 2016. There were a number of notable successes during the week, including the provision by the US Department of Agriculture of its seal of approval to Irish beef, following 3 years of engagement by Bord Bia and my department. This means that Irish beef sold in the United States from approved plants can now carry the US Department of Agriculture shield. This provides a further guarantee to US buyers and consumers that the unique claims Bord Bia makes are validated by their own national authority. This is a tremendous positive for the prospects of Irish beef sales in the United States. In Mexico, I met with key political counterparts and handed over an application for access for Irish pig meat to the Mexican market and initiated the process for access for Irish beef. There was also an opportunity to present Origin Green to Mexican purchasers of Irish dairy products. Mexico is already a significant importer of Irish dairy products, but there is significant scope for expansion and diversification of the product range, particularly within the context of a renegotiated trade agreement between the European Union and Mexico. This is just one example of the work that is ongoing to expand the export footprint of the Irish food and drinks industry. These efforts are being redoubled now against the background of Brexit, and my department, its state agencies and industry operators are working together collaboratively to develop new market opportunities. Additional resources have been provided for Bord Bia, and my department is intensifying its market access efforts and is considering what further steps need to be taken as the situation evolves. Of course, this does not mean giving up on the United Kingdom market. Shelf space on UK supermarkets has been hard-won over many years, and we have been active in this space, meeting with United Kingdom multiples and with UK counterparts to assure them of Ireland's continued commitment to the provision of high-quality food, meeting United Kingdom standards for United Kingdom consumers. Today's event is another milestone on the road to preparing Irish companies for Brexit. The Brexit Barometer is a really practical tool, not only for the participating companies, but also for government as it gathers the intelligence necessary to inform public policy in the face of the enormous challenge that Brexit is. I want to congratulate Bord Bia for its effective work in this space. I also want to assure food industry that its concerns are well understood at government level and are to the front and centre in informing the Irish position on these negotiations as we face into what will be very difficult periods of uncertainty. While there are significant challenges ahead, I have great confidence in the resilience of the Irish food and drink sector and look forward to working with you to develop this great sector to its true potential. Thank you.